Faith Ringgold and Story Quilts by Jonna Flores. I wanted to do a lesson that included Faith Ringgold, so I decided to see what other teachers had done. Afterwards, I mixed and matched these to make my own. First, I needed to cut paper. I decided on 8x8 for the illustration and 10x10 for the final quilt size. Next, I needed to cut fabric into squares. When I had enough, I divided them into 7 boxes, one for each table. I also decided to buy the book Tar Beach by Faith Ringgold. For engagement, I asked students a few questions.
Show off your art.
Okay, so why else might I make art? Yeah.
So stuff can be beautiful. That they like when someone liked it art, they wanted to be an artist, so that is why they wanted to do art. Outside and sleeping outside. I think they're having dinner at night. Someone's riding.
For the exploration activity, we shared and told stories.
Now he has a billion cards. And then jumped into the water, but she was thirsty. But then I got the biggest party ever. The Jurassic Park was so scary. One day when Tanya was a baby, when her mom ordered tomato soup, she thought it was tomato soup, but it was octopus soup. My friend went out of town. She went to the Great White World, and it was fun.
For explanation, we read the book Tar Beach and talked about story quilts. Next, we elaborated and drew our own. What's your story?
I was on a mountain to climb and I found crystals. My story is about Christmas and me getting my first Barbie house.
On day 2, we reviewed content from last week and brainstormed things that we learned. Does anyone remember what we did after we read the story and talked about the stories? Yes, ma'am.
We got to make something about us, a happy memory just about us, like she did with her.
Right, we got to tell a story. We also needed to talk about color. I talked about how to make brown with blue and orange, but mixing only on your paper, not inside of the temper cakes. We also talked about blotting in case you had too much water on your paper. The last thing we talked about was waiting to let things dry so that your paint didn't bleed whenever you used it. Then it was time to paint. He only has one piece left. On day 3, we talked about Tar Beach, the quilt, looked at different quilts, and brainstormed how we could make patterns with our fabric. This was the example that I used in class. Then we got right to work.
An AV pattern.
AV pattern? Why did you choose green and yellow?
Those two are two of my favorite colors. This one reminds me of playing outside. These two remind me of being the sun. This one reminds me of my big brother.
Why?
Because he's in the military.
This is like white and this is like red and sheet, white and red.
Yeah, a lot better. Here are some examples of story quilts that are almost finished. The last step is for students to write down their story and attach it to the bottom of their quilts. Overall, I thought the entire lesson went well. if I could change one thing, I think it might be letting students use colored pencils instead of paint. That way they could get more detail in their illustrations.